So Led Zeppelin takes a lot of flack for the performance they put on at the Live Aid show in 1985 when they had an impromptu, quote, reunion, unquote, which is exactly how it was billed for the Live Aid concert, and they featured Phil Collins as one of the two drummers that took place of John Bonham. Over the years, there have been a lot of back and forth comments made by Phil Collins and Jimmy Page about exactly who was responsible for the shambolic performance. In fact, let's listen right here to Jimmy Page talking a little bit about the experience.
Live Aid was appalling.
Yeah.
It was absolutely appalling because everyone was doing different things at that point in time. I mean, I was sort of working with Paul, and the Live Aid opportunity came up, and we didn't have to sort of play that much. So theoretically, as everyone was up to speed individually, that we ought to be able to come together and I mean, it was really, really, really a wing and a prayer, this, and pull it off. But the fact was that the drummers didn't know the material, so we were in real trouble. And we had like half an hour to rehearse or whatever, or an hour, and we're still trying to get the drummer to do the opening for rock and roll.
So there you can hear directly from Jimmy Page that he put the blame for the bad performance on Phil Collins. Now I'm going to tell you what I think about Page's comments here in a second, but before I do that, I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe to the channel. I upload new videos basically every day. We have a lot of interesting discussions and polls over in the community section. Alright, so back to what Page was saying there, and whether or not the bad performance that Led Zeppelin turned in at Live Aid can be blamed on Phil Collins. Phil Collins has recently opined that he didn't know the material, that much is true, and so that he, quote, air drummed, unquote, through a lot of it. So it's hard to see how the absence of his playing could be solely responsible for the bad performance. But if you listen to Jimmy Page's comments carefully, you can hear a couple of other things that may have come into play. One of them is that they didn't have very much rehearsal time. So even if they would have had a drummer that knew the material, they only had like an hour to a half an hour. It was an impromptu thing, and they had all fallaciously believed that because they were musically active apart from one another, that they could just get together and let it rip like they did in the old days. Another reason is because outdoor concerts just notoriously don't sound all that good, especially when they haven't been processed at all, especially when it's just a raw live sound, and none of the bands at Live Aid sounded as good as they do in other venues. There are very few bands, particularly one like Led Zeppelin, that's going to sound incredible in an outdoor venue that large. I know Zeppelin played big venues and they played outdoor venues prior to this that were way more successful, but at that time they would have had a sound crew, everything engineered exactly toward their show specifically, whereas in this case they were sharing the stage with dozens of other bands. And my last point is just that they hadn't played the material for so long that it was, even though second nature to them, they were rusty. So while I think that Phil Collins probably didn't do a great job of drumming, I don't think that it's his fault that the set went so poorly. I think it's more likely has to do with the other things that Page mentioned in his comments if you look at them closely. But what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below. And remember to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.